Welcome to Widener University's Biofeedback and Psychophysiological Training Program. My name is Dr. Celeste DeBees, and I'll be your instructor for this online course. This course meets the didactic requirements of the Biofeedback Certification Institute of America's General Biofeedback Certification. This lecture covers an orientation to biofeedback. Please refer to your BCIA Blueprint of Knowledge printout for a complete look at the subjects covered in this first lecture. Let's start with an understanding of the word psychophysiological. As the word suggests, it involves both the mind, the psyche, and the body, the physical. Psychophysiological therapies and treatments are applied to both psychological disorders and physiological disorders. This definition of applied psychophysiology is given by Mark Schwartz in his book entitled Biofeedback, A Practitioner's Guide. Applied psychophysiology includes a group of interventions and evaluation methods with the exclusive or primary intention of understanding and effecting change that help humans move towards and maintain healthier psychophysiological functioning. This course is designed to provide you with a didactic portion of the knowledge requirements specified by BCIA. This consists of 8 rubric areas of knowledge, which we'll cover in these 10 lectures. In this first lesson, we will cover the following material: definitions of biofeedback, the history of the biofeedback movement with its pioneers and forces that led to its outcome, control of psychophysiology through volition or will, an overview of the principles of learning, and research methodology. Let's get a better understanding of what biofeedback is. Biofeedback is operant conditioning. B.F. Skinner defined operant conditioning as learning which changes overt behavior. Technically, anything that gives us information about our biological state can be considered biofeedback. But biofeedback training involves using this feedback information to normalize the mind and body. Elmer Green is often referred to as the father of biofeedback. He traveled to India along with his wife Elise and his daughter to study yogi masters. It was an East meets West moment. Modern technology was integrated into ancient wisdom. Elmer Green presents the psychophysiological principle, which indicates that every change in a physical state is accompanied by an appropriate change in the mental-emotional state and vice versa. The history of psychophysiology did not start with Elmer Green. The study of the interplay between the mind and the body has a long history. We'll review some of the most important figures in the history of psychophysiology. We'll look later in more depth at the James Lange theory, but for now, it was one of the initial theories of the interplay of mind and body in the production of emotions. Walter Cannon wrote a book called The Wisdom of the Body, in which he outlined classical conditioning of automatic or autonomic functions, primarily the fight or flight response of the autonomic nervous system. Another important figure is Hess, who used the term ergotrophic to define a state of action preparedness, and the word trophotrophic was a term he used for a resting state in which recovery and restoration were possible. He won the Nobel Prize in 1949. Langley was the first to use the term autonomic nervous system in his book of the same name, published in 1921. Other important figures include Ernest Gellhorn, Cellier Benson, and Lonsdale. Ernst Gellhorn used Hess's concepts and developed the concept of autonomic tuning. He likened it to tuning a car so that it runs perfectly. Hans Cellier wrote The Stress of Life. In it he talks about the general adaptation syndrome. Herbert Benson was a Boston cardiologist who coined the word the relaxation response. Lonsdale proposed a view of disease which treats the psyche as part of the soma. He wrote a piece called The Syndrome of Functional Dysantonia in 1981, in which he postulated that sympathetic dominance due to genetic factors or life stress can cause disease. We had mentioned before the name of William James, who was an American psychologist and philosopher. He teamed up with a Danish physiologist called Carl Lang, and they put forth a theory of emotion that involved an interplay of the mind and body. William James was particularly interested in psychophysiology. He lived in the late 1800s. His brother, Henry James, was the famous author. William James suffered all of his life from bouts of hypochondriacal thinking and depression. This may be why psychophysiology interested him. His 1890 book, The Principles of Psychology, is a classic exposé of the discipline of psychology. Walter Branford Cannon lived at about the same time as William James. He's often referred to as an experimental physiologist. He was the president of the American Physiological Society from 1914 to 1916, and he concentrated his research on traumatic shock following World War I. How emotions and post-traumatic stress disrupted homeostasis was one of his primary interests. He expanded on this concept of homeostasis. Although Walter Cannon expanded on the concept of homeostasis, the concept was developed by Claude Bernard in 1878. Homeostasis is a word that is used in cybernetics and control theory. It is feedback in a process whereby some proportion of the output signal of the system is passed or fed back to the input. Negative feedback tends to reduce output. Homeostasis is maintained in this fashion. Walter Rudolf Hess shared the Nobel Prize in Physiology in 1949. Hess found that stimulating various regions of the brain produced overall behavioral changes that aroused or ergotrophically initiated or quieted trophotrophically initiated these changes. An ergotrophic shift is characterized by sympathetic arousal. A trophotropic shift is characterized by parasympathetic engagement. John Newport Langley worked on the anatomical and functional properties of the autonomic nervous system. He divided the autonomic nervous system actually into three, not two parts. They were the sympathetic, the parasympathetic, and the enteric system, or what he called the abdominal brain. The millions of nerve cells in the guts are responsible for more than just propulsion of food. The enteric nervous system is responsible also for maintaining a healthy gut environment. Currently, the importance of the enteric system is returning into the work of psychophysiologists. Let's take a look at the entire nervous system. It's divided into two parts: the central nervous system, which involves the brain and the spinal column, and the peripheral nervous system, which is everything peripheral to the central nervous system. The peripheral nervous system is divided into the somatic nervous system and the autonomic nervous system. The autonomic nervous system is further divided into the parasympathetic and the sympathetic branches. Let's look a little closer at Ernst Gellhorn's work. When the ergotrophic or activation phase of a tense activity is over, there should be a natural swing of the nervous system into the trophotropic or recuperative stage. However, if a human's life has constant and unremitting stress or tension, a person may never get a chance to effectively rebound into a recuperative stage. Gellhorn introduced the need for retuning the nervous system when this occurs. Let's look a little closer at Herbert Benson's work. He coined the phrase, the relaxation response, as I said, after studying people who participated in transcendental meditation. Meditation reduces the activity of the sympathetic nervous system. When eliciting the relaxation response, which is eliciting the parasympathetic nervous system, your metabolism decreases, your heartbeat slows, muscles relax, breathing becomes slower, and blood pressure decreases. He also found that the levels of nitric oxide increase in the body. Nitric oxide inhibits norepinephrine, or adrenaline, which is a major neurotransmitter that activates the nervous system. Derek Lonsdale is a medical doctor who proposes a new way of looking at disease and the cure of diseases. He left his practice of orthodox medicine when he developed the insight that, to quote him, doctors don't heal, the body heals itself. His theory of functional dysanotonia proposes a model of disease which treats the brain and psyche as part of the body, the soma. The brain, operating as a computer, coordinates energy metabolism in all of the body. There should be a proper mixture of sympathetic, parasympathetic, and endocrine drives governing the body. We've looked at a brief history of the psychophysiological movement. Other disciplines that led to the emergence of biofeedback include cybernetics, computerization, and miniaturization. Wiener is the founder of the field of cybernetics. He wrote a book in 1941 entitled Cybernetics or Control and Communication in the Animal and the Machine. Learning theory and its principles are also important in biofeedback training. Reinforcement, discrimination training, generalization are all important concepts. Two important figures in learning theory are Pavlov, responsible for the theory of classical conditioning, which involves pairing. Joseph Wolfe came up with a treatment called systematic desensitization. This paired a deeply relaxed state with a hierarchy of anxiety-producing images. Often, biofeedback can be used to assist in the relaxation process. Another important figure in learning theory is John Watson, the father of behaviorism. In the early 1900s, he came up with a concept in which he put forth the principle that all behavior is determined by external forces.